Welcome, everybody. Here we go again. Another great episode of EV Society's Canada Talks Electric Cars webinar. This happens to be episode 16. Hard to believe the time is flying by. My name's Tim Burrows, and I'm going to be your host for today's webinar. I'm going to say it because I know a lot of you are new or first-time visitors to the webinar, that Electric Vehicle Society is a national organization. We have members right across Canada, and we would love to have you join our ranks for just $30, unless you're a senior, in which case $20 gets you in the door for a year, and also gets you all sorts of extra goodies and specials. I'm going to remind you that, yes, the webinar is indeed recorded. I guess Zoom does that for us now. But not only is it being recorded, it will be posted on our EV Society YouTube channel. So if you want to share it with somebody or just want to review parts of it again, it will be there within a day or so, and you can watch it all over again. As always, this webinar will run no longer than 60 minutes. We'll stop at 10 or 8:30 at the latest. That's Eastern time. We have people right across the country joining us tonight. And all of you have joined, of course, the webinar with your cameras off and your microphones muted. I'm going to encourage you, if you would, to please ask our guest speakers questions at any time using the Q&A function of the webinar, the Zoom webinar, not the chat. Note, and remember, please, too, that you have the ability to upvote any questions that you see posted by other attendees that you would also like to hear answered. So by upvoting it, it moves it and gives it higher ranking, and it makes it much easier for us to decide which questions to answer while the time still is on our side. Tonight, or today, Laura Bryson will be the one taking us through the questions immediately following the presentation. So the title of the episode today is EVs, A Look Under the Hood. And we're pleased to welcome two guests to the webinar this time, Dave Giles and Jeremie Bernardin, both from All EV Canada, a Canadian leader of electric vehicle education, sales, and products. So Dave Giles is an electric vehicle specialist. He's been involved in the automotive, truck, and transport industries for over 30 years and holds a Red Seal AST certification in Canada, and is also certified in HRAI instructor for the delivery and the certification of controlled substances. Dave also holds several other certifications involving advanced vehicle technology and systems. He's a frequent guest speaker at numerous automotive conferences that involve battery electric vehicles and advanced vehicle systems such as ADAS and autonomous vehicles. Dave has helped develop many innovative solutions for electric drive systems and provides skills upgrading to licensed technicians and apprentices. Dave's passion is to continue to learn and help find solutions for exciting and sustainable exciting and sustainable transportation in the future. Jeremie Bernardin is focused on accelerating the transition to electrified transportation in Canada. Jeremie has been dedicated to leading projects and organizations in the clean transportation sector. Over the past decade, he has worked for and with various levels of government, including private and nonprofit organizations, as a bilingual electric vehicle industry specialist. Jeremie's passions extend to technology advancements, the green workforce transition, social equity, and ecology. Well, Dave and Jeremie, welcome to Canada Talks Electric Cars webinar. We're delighted to have you on.
Thank you, Tim. It's really great to be here, and I've been a long-time volunteer of Electric Vehicle Society, so it's an honor to join here today and be able to share a little bit of what we've been doing. I won't be speaking for long. I'll be passing the torch over to my colleague Dave Giles, but I want to introduce him and share with you all kind of why Dave is so important to us. And Dave and myself and Jeff Farwell, who's not on the call with us today, are the original founders of All EV Canada, and we've created something quite unique, and we've really brought an experience to the consumer where we really focus on giving them an environment where they purchase with confidence. They understand that these vehicles can be intimidating to some, and we're just ensuring that they buy with comfort and knowing that we can service every single make and model. And that's one of the core parts that have really made us stand apart. We're also very lucky that Dave Giles happens to be, one of the leading experts in North America in the space. And although I won't dive into how our company started, we've been taking electric vehicles apart, from one end to the other, and rebuilding them and cutting them apart and using them for education and demonstration. And we use this as part of our knowledge transition process. And our organization is kind of unique in the space that we are educators first. And Dave can't help himself but share this passion with everyone he runs across and all our customers. And you'll see that there's a couple training aids and cut open motors behind him as soon as he goes on camera. And it's something that's been really exciting to see how a consumer comes with a ton of questions and a degree of uncertainty and unease transitioning into a new space where they don't necessarily understand how the vehicle works and how charging works and all of this, and we're able to really show them all of that. So I'm excited to join you all at the same time and listening to Dave present, and I'll be joining at the end for the Q&A if anybody has questions that's a little bit more on the consumer sales process or how it all ties into the organization. I'd be more than happy to jump in. So Dave, over to you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, guys. What an introduction that is. I'm blushing now. But anyways, it's great to have everyone on. I see there's almost 100 people on it, so that's awesome to see the interest in this topic. Like Jeremie was saying, it's a great passion of mine, is the electrification of vehicles and the transition, both for consumers and technicians. It's exciting to see what's happening. We're going to see a lot of things tonight. I only have a short amount of time, so I'm going to try and keep things very brief, but at the same time, I really encourage questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Technical, even something, maybe you're driving a gas-powered vehicle now and you're looking at getting EV and you might have a question around that. Jeremie is awesome with answering those types of questions for consumers in that transition, but I definitely want to be able to answer hopefully a lot of your questions this evening. I'm going to go through like the maintenance. I love the topic of this. It's a look under the hood, which is exciting, considering in some cases, there's nothing under the hood, maybe a set of shoes and a tennis racket, depending on the vehicle. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, maintenance, look at charging. A big question that does come up a lot of times is, understanding charging a little bit, and what do I need to know about that? But I really still want to look at more the maintenance side of the vehicle, the technical side, the mechanical side. So any questions around that would be fantastic. I do have a short presentation to show you what we do here and some of the things that we find with the cars. On a daily basis, we have about 5 to 10 electric vehicles that go through our shop. A lot of times it's just for maintenance and inspections. We have a very unique battery health report that we do for electric vehicles. It's right across the board. I do it right from Teslas all the way down to Ioniqs and older Leafs. We've done battery rebuilds here. So lots of different avenues that we do here at All EV Canada. Our technicians here, they're also trained to work with the electric vehicles. And the other big thing is too, and a lot of people look at us and we're in Atlantic Canada, Nova Scotia, Halifax. Actually, we're not even in Halifax. We're in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. And we only do electric vehicles, BEV vehicles only. We do not have any gas-powered vehicle roll through our door unless it has over 100 volts. So that means that the high voltage battery must be 100 volts or greater, or else we just don't do them. And in fact, we have relationships with other shops where we'll recommend that client to that shop if they have a gas-powered vehicle, or maybe a vehicle like an older Malibu or something that's a low voltage type of BAS hybrid. So we're going to be jumping right in here. I know my time's tight, so I'm going to start off with, and this is one of my favorite. Let's see if I get this to work. Is it going to come up? Oh, maybe not. In a second. There it goes. And this is exciting. I love this statement. I don't know how many, if you can all see that, but oops. Basically, it allows, we will see some more change in the next 5 years than there's been in the last 50 years. And that's so true. I've been doing the vehicles. My very first experience with an electric car was in 2004. It was with the Toyota Prius. I rented the Prius, took it all apart, and actually delivered a course on hybrids to a bunch of body shops. And that was my first experience. So I basically rented a car, took it all apart, learned from that with service information. And basically from there, it's been ongoing. When I worked at the college out here, I developed some of the training curriculum for the apprenticeship program for hybrid electric vehicles and so on. And electric vehicles start rolling on stage more often. So we're seeing it faster and faster now. Now here we are today in 2021. And it's just accelerating like crazy. Manufacturers are jumping on. The infrastructure is building very good. The cars are amazing. One thing, I've been dealing with automotive for like over 30 years. And one thing is a used car, for example, or even any car would always have, hard starting in the winter time, noises, you have all the components involved. Electric vehicles don't have any of that stuff. And, there are very few moving parts in the conventional sense of the drivetrain. So, which is really interesting for people to understand or see what actually lays under the hood of an electric vehicle. So I want to start off with that. Like I said, any questions? I know the questions are supposed to be left till the end, but at the end there, we'll definitely try and answer as many as you have. So, okay, let's go next. So I love this. This is one of my favorite slides beyond the first slide there that I mentioned. What is maintenance? And maintenance is a big word we use in the industry, especially around electric vehicles, because we always talk about the maintenance items an electric car needs. The Chevy Bolt is a very unique car. If you ever look at its maintenance scheduled interval, it's regular tire rotation. I'll talk a little bit about that, and alignment and things like that. But the thing is, their first maintenance interval for something that's significant is at 160,000 kilometers, and it's for the hood shocks or the trunk shocks on the back of the vehicle. And then the next major interval is until 240,000 kilometers, which the Dexcool coolant needs to be replaced in the vehicle. Other than that, it's just regular, the regular tire rotation, alignment, and so on. So it's very unique, some of these maintenance items. And I like to say that very carefully, because a maintenance, the word maintenance means a preventative service to help reduce component failure or performance of a system. It is not replacement of components. So when we talk about maintenance on a vehicle, we're talking about tire rotations, we're talking brake caliper service, cabin air filter cleaning, not so much replacing, brake fluid testing. These are all components that basically, once again, they allow the longevity of the vehicle, protection of the environment, because we're not disposing of anything into the environment, and also keeping the cars on the road longer. So these are all preventive maintenance. The word repair comes from, to repair is to replace a defective or worn out part. So if I go to maintenance and I talk about an oil change in a gas-powered vehicle, I'm actually replacing the oil and replacing the filter. Technically, it's a repair in that sense, not so much a maintenance. Sure, it helps the engine last longer, work better, lowers the emissions, but at the same time, it's actually I'm doing something. So in a repair of a vehicle, even in the maintenance interval, they talk about replacement of spark plugs, doing transmission fluid flushes, changing belts on the engine. These are all repairs. So it's sometimes some people say, well, my gas-powered vehicle has the same maintenance as an electric vehicle based on cost. I go, well, that's impossible, because a lot of your maintenance items on your car are replacement items, which is actually a repair item on that vehicle. So I like to distinguish that between the maintenance side of a vehicle and the repair side of a vehicle. And with EVs, a lot of it is basically maintenance. There is no real replacement of components. I've done probably over 100 Teslas through here in the last probably 8 months. Not including hundreds of other Bolts, Leafs, Konas, Ionics, Volkswagens. We have everything that comes through here. And a lot of people come in and they're saying, I need to do some maintenance on my vehicle, but I'm not really sure what needs to be done. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well this evening, a little bit of what the maintenance items are. Because we know with the electric vehicles, they don't have the combustion components, the emission control, the fuel systems, filters within them in some cases. It's all eliminated. Belt starters, alternators, all that's all gone. So it's really exciting because you really are doing maintenance on an electric vehicle, and very minimal maintenance at best. So let me just start off real quick is the big one. I could go through, the cabin air filters, the wipers, the washer fluid and stuff like that. But one of the things that is critical with electric vehicles is the brake caliper service. And it's not just getting brake caliper service, it's getting proper brake caliper service. I've seen many shops that have done brake caliper servicing, and I see it on the internet as well. And they're missing a bunch of key points when they do it. There's several steps that have to be done on a vehicle with brake caliper service. So the picture on the very right there with that rotor that looks like it's from a vehicle that's 100,000 kilometers, that's off actually a Bolt, and it had only 16,000 kilometers on it. And it's driven daily. And that's what came in. And they're complaining about noise on the vehicle, and they never had the brake calipers serviced at all, ever. And we're in Atlantic Canada, so it's a little different for us because we have a very high salt concentration in our air, so it makes things rust a little faster. And of course, with regenerative braking, it does, you're not using the brakes as much, and there is some strategies to help prevent that. So, but it's always good to have that brake caliper service done on a vehicle, to maintain your brakes, have them inspected and things like that. So some of the big key points. So if you do take your vehicle in to get brake caliper service, you can ask the questions like, are they cleaning the caliper brackets? Are they removing the sliders? Are they ensuring the dust boots are clean and free? Are they operating? These are all things that cause brake failure or early brake failure on electric vehicles and even on gas vehicles. And I like to be careful here, just to back up a little bit. Gas-powered vehicles are no different. Brake caliper service is still a part of their world as well. They just don't do it as much because usually, one, the brakes wear out to a certain point, and they're using the brakes more often, so they're more likely to keep from freezing up or seizing up. But the thing is going back to some of the services, and also make sure they're using the proper chemicals or the OEM required material to do that brake caliper service. Not all oils or lubes are the same. Different manufacturers use different processes and procedures. And that's one thing that I stress to our technicians that are working on these cars. You've got to follow OEM recommendations, follow the torque procedures, and follow their standards, because this is a braking system, and because they're not used a lot, and in the case of emergency braking, it's got to work. So we want to make sure they use the proper materials when they're doing it. There's some synthetic lubes or some other types of chemicals. Tesla has very unique with their brake caliper servicing. What they require is not just basically pulling the pads out, like giving a quick brush and then pouring lube on them and sticking them back on. There is a bit of a process there that has to be done. And of course, some of these cars have electric accumulators on them. That's the assist to the braking system, because they don't have vacuum operated engines, so they don't have that assist there. So it's very important to be able to recognize that and also follow the maintenance procedure for doing your brake service. So this will keep the vehicle running longer, maintaining it well, and just keeps it on the road longer. So brake caliper service all the way around. Some people ask, what is the brake caliper service recommendation on a vehicle? Here in Atlantic Canada, we recommend First time, 1 year. Second time is once every 2 years with a periodic inspection of the brakes. So when you get your winter tires swapped over and you do that, then we would definitely do a brake inspection, make sure lubes work is still good, make sure the brakes work good. And, and then it's great. It gives consumers, our clients, peace of mind that, the system will work and it's been inspected and they're not going to run any problems. In fact, here's a good example right here. I do have one here. It's, I don't know if I can probably bring it right up. This is a Tesla performance caliper and it looks pretty stinking good. Like it doesn't look bad. This actually failed the motor vehicle inspection in Nova Scotia. The reason is this caliper was never maintained. They never did a brake caliper service on it. And in fact, in the inside here, it actually rotted the inside where the pads were, seized the pad solid in the caliper, and now the caliper is damaged. So even cleaning that up would create too much clearance, and so the caliper actually failed. These calipers are not cheap. They're about $700 each Canadian. So, and we just did a Model X. Here's another one. Model X, same thing. This was just done last week. We had to replace the calipers. The inside pistons, you can actually see, I don't know if I'm trying to bring us close, you can actually see this one piston is sticking out further than this one. This piston is actually completely seized in the caliper. So at the end of the day, caliper needed to be replaced. We'll probably wind up getting rebuild kits from Brembo to repair these because I don't like throwing anything out, as Jeremy knows. Hence the calipers there. So in fact, we have a metal bin out back, and I think it's been since we started here in 2000, January 2000, I've emptied the metal bin twice, and it's not a very big metal bin. So I try and save components. I try and use it for education, rotors and that have been damaged or, that have been, or components like our calipers, we can show customers or clients what happens when you don't do some of these services. So yeah, brake pads never wear out. I've never had to replace a set of brake pads because they're wore out. I've had to replace them because they've been rotted into the caliper. So it's so once again, just an important aspect of some of the maintenance that needs to be done to a car. The big one with electrics is tires. It's a big topic. I'm always on forums talking about alignments, tires, and so on. I can't stress enough, 20,000 kilometers is a good interval to do an alignment, especially on some of the bigger kilowatt hour battery cars. We do find that, there's a lot of inside tire wear, like looks like a lot of camber wear, but it's really critical that cars, one, have the correct air pressure. Most electric cars have tire pressure monitoring. So usually below 3 PSI, it'll trip the light. So that's not a big deal. But once again, maintaining tire pressure, make sure the car is aligned properly. Maybe every 20,000 kilometers is kind of a recommendation, 22,000 kilometers once a year at least on, so like I said, on some of these heavier kilowatt hour battery cars. But the other thing is to make sure you run the right tires on your car. Electric cars, because of the center of gravity of the vehicle, where the battery is located, it's in a lower section of the car, so it's pulling down harder on those areas, which hence why you see a lot of inside tire wear. It looks like, once again, like some of the screenshots up there. But the other thing is too, the tires are also, you need to run an XL tire in a lot of cases. And the XL stands for extra load. So when you're pricing out tires and, somebody says, oh, it's a 235, 4518, and you're like, oh, okay. And, there's a bunch of options. One, you got to make sure, a big thing is to make sure it's an extra load tire on these electric vehicles. Now, some manufacturers don't stress that. Others really do. And the other thing with the extra load, it will allow the increased inflation pressure as well to match your door card on your vehicle. So if you ever open your door on your vehicle, whether gas or electric, there will be a tire card there, and that will tell you the type of tires it takes, as well as the inflation pressure of those tires. So even though the tire says it's good for 60 PSI, the vehicle is not designed, if it says it's only good for up to 45 PSI, Inflating a tire to 60 could cause adverse effects to stability, handling, and suspension on that vehicle. Whereas, going the other way, if you have a tire that's only rated for 45 psi, but your car calls for 45 psi, and your max pressure on your tire is 45, then you could wind up, having a problem. Overinflation of a tire could cause tire explosion, failure of the tire. So it's always good to make sure you run the right tires. Make sure they're the proper tire for the vehicle, and then you can start looking at the range. A lot of people talk to me about, the type of tire. Winter's coming up. Winter tires is going to be a big topic as well. We're going to see a lot of that. So, so we're going to see a lot of these different things with tires coming out. A lot of tire shops are getting really good with electric vehicles and understanding what their clients need. And, sometimes it might take an owner like yourselves, if you go into a shop, to even educate sometimes the tire shop and being able to pick the right tires for your vehicle. So we do have a lot of customers that come in and they, basically ask us a lot of questions about our tires and the sensors and things like that about the wheels. So once again, it's an important topic. It gives you maximum range on the vehicle. It gives the better handling, noise control. These are all great factors. Wear is a big thing too. Obviously, we see a lot of comments about how fast electric vehicle tires wear. And it's not so much that they wear faster. It's just, sometimes the OEM tires are just designed not to last as long as some of the tires out there, where you're expecting 100,000, you might get 40, 45, 50,000. And some of the Michelin's, that is their wear warranty anyways up to that point. So once again, do a little research, ask the questions, and sometimes that really helps as well. I can't stress once again enough about alignments. Alignments is a very important part of your electric vehicle. A car that's out of alignment will lose range. There's no question about it. It will cause damage to your vehicle's tires and also the range that you're getting on the vehicle. Then plus the driving characteristics of the vehicle are affected. And also one other point, if you take your vehicle in for alignment, get the printout and make sure they align the rear of the vehicle if it is adjustable. The rear affects the front, especially with the weight in the vehicle. Is very, very important that the rear is aligned. If they come back and say, oh, don't worry about the rear, it's out by a couple degrees, the front's good, the toe's good, kind of the saying in the industry is set the toe and let it go. Don't accept that. Make sure it's properly aligned. Much better, a satisfaction with the vehicle after that. Just because the steering wheel's straight, if your back tires are dragging like the picture on the left there, they're not. It's going to be costly, and it's not going to be a fun trip back in a set of tires and 10,000 kilometers. The other one I talk about is battery health reports. Battery health reports is a big area as well that we talk about. A lot of customers come in. First thing they want to know, and Jeremie would probably talk about this after, is one of the things somebody's looking at a car. They want to know, what is the health of the battery? And I always say the health of the battery is the same as if you were doing a compression check on an engine. So it's kind of the health of the engine. If it has good compression, you're going to get the maximum performance. You're going to get the best economy and stuff like that. If you have a weak engine that's low compression and it's not running well, obviously you're going to use more fuel and so on. And electric vehicles kind of relate to that in the sense, if your battery is low, you're not going to get the range, you're not going to get the performance. So one of the things we've developed is a unique battery health report. I can do it on pretty much almost any vehicle now. We have some calculations, we have specialized equipment, we have software, and at the same time, we can actually rebuild and fix these batteries. So peace of mind to a consumer. They look at the news and they're talking about a $15,000 battery replacement, and you say, well, you need 4 cells in it. We'll rebalance the pack and go from there. And a lot of times that's all it takes. We do. Now, mind you, the nickel metal hydrate batteries of the older generations of Priuses and so on are very big down here. A lot of Priuses on the road. People are basically, not, they go into the dealer or whatnot, and they're told it needs $6,000, $7,000 battery for their car. And it cringes me because the cars are still great. But a lot of times they're actually recommending their customers to come to us, and we rebuild the battery and keep it on the road. So, and the beauty is that we can also do this as a maintenance thing on a vehicle. Customer comes in every year, we can tell you your condition of your battery. I can tell you, maybe give you some strategies in charging it, to help really alleviate some of that, loss in range and so on in the battery. So our battery health report is a great maintenance thing. And, find a shop that, especially if you're across Canada, finding a shop that may have the capability or the ability to do battery health reports is a great asset. It helps with resale value, but also helps with confidence that you're still, your battery is still healthy and it's still good for what you intend it to be for. Okay. Feels really weird because I'm talking to myself. So this is a really interesting way of doing this presentation. One thing about All EV and what we do here is because we are educators, and I love showing people like, hey, this is a regular car, has regular suspension on it, it has shocks, it has control arms, it has a braking system, it has hydraulic fluid in the brakes, and they get to see this. And this is something I built we started about half a year ago, I guess, about maybe even a year ago, and we call it the iDev, and it's essentially an interactive demo electric vehicle. And this vehicle is a cutaway of a 2019 Tesla Model 3 long range, and it really showcases the technology in the vehicle, charging. It's great for showing people how DCFC works. I could show. This is a contactor from a DCFC from a Tesla Model 3. So we can explain how that works right on the vehicle. It shows them how to plug it in. And it's very popular. We take it to shows. In fact, it's touring New Brunswick for the next 3 weeks. So we're going to have a lot of people coming up and obviously just basically interested. Hey, this is a Tesla. There's no body on it, but it's a really great way of showing showing how this vehicle works. And one of the questions that does come up a lot is, I'm just going to grab it here. This is one of my favorite things about charging is I'm just going to stop screen share here. I don't know how to do stop share. I'll come back in a second. But this is a Tesla charge cable. So this is a charge port from a Tesla. And one of the things that people ask me, go, well, on the other car, I used to own a Leaf, and it had a Chatamo on it, a big DCFC, and then it had the J1772 beside it. And Tesla doesn't have that. They only have one connector. So it's really interesting. When they ask that, they say, well, how can Tesla do it with one through both? And the other one is I need two, because one is direct current, DC current, and the other one is AC current. So your level 1, level 2 is your AC, but it travels through the same two cables. And that's just really cool, especially on our iDev, we can really show that. But as when you plug in your level 2 into a Tesla, and I'm just using this as an example, you plug your level 2 into the Tesla, basically the AC voltage travels through the lines and comes up to the end, which it goes into the penthouse, and it comes up to the DCFC contactor. And this big contactor has a bunch of connectors there. And at the minute that it comes up to the contactor, it senses AC voltage, and the AC voltage actually goes directly into the charger in the vehicle. Never turning this on. It turns on the 12-volt charger, or the high voltage charger under the penthouse, they call it. And that actually takes the AC voltage and turns it into DC voltage, which then charges the high voltage battery. And I always like to use the example, it's like a battery charger on if you're at home, you plug your charger into the wall, and then you have the charger box, and you take the positive, negative, and you plug it onto your 12-volt battery. And that would be an example of a level 1, level 2. If I'm trickle charging at 15 amps, that's level 1. If I turn my charger knob to 40 amps for basically boosting the car, that would be like a level 2. And then level 3 example of that would be taking booster cables from one vehicle and plugging them on to the other vehicle, which would basically DC voltage, full power right to that battery. So it's a really cool concept to be able to see how some of these manufacturers actually do their charging and their strategies with the charging on a vehicle. Okay. Put that aside here. Just gonna move back. The other thing I want to show, you can watch my time here. The other thing I want to show is behind me, I have a very unique setup here. And this is actually, I'm gonna move this down. This is where I mean my cameraman. And this here is a Tesla Model 3 rear drive motor from a unit. We use this as an educational tool. So right now we can see it's been cut away. Oh, it's fine there. It should be good. It's been cut away. So it allows us to show some of the components on the drive motor. We can see the inverter. We can show how it's cooled here, the cooling system. We do have a heat exchanger here. It's a very unique system. I'm not going to go into all the detail of how it works, but one question I do get, and I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's going to zoom in here. I'm going to go a little closer, and I don't know if you can see that right there. And that is a filter. And it has no service interval on it at all, but it's a screw-on style. I think you got cranked on there, just like an oil filter. So just a screw-on oil filter. You actually see a little bit of tranny fluid from the remnants of it. But so it still has a chiller here. So what it uses that for, and just give an example of how some of these cars work, we can see the stator in here inside the motor itself. I can see the speed sensor at the end, right at the very back. And, coming around the side here, I was showing this here a little earlier, but I apologize for the camera work here, but you can actually see they actually inside here, there's a bunch of, might hear it. Let me get this in here. You hear there's like fins inside here. So there's a bunch of different components. You can see the inside of the motor. So it allows people, when we're explaining how the vehicle works or how the drive units work, it gives them that experience and shows how this all comes about, or how that motor works, how it's cooled. One of the things they ask us in a Tesla, for example, don't like picking on or saying one manufacturer, but it's very unique. Every manufacturer has a different way of heating their batteries. Tesla uses basically the oil from the drive unit, transferring the heat from the motor into the coolant, then the coolant goes into the battery. Leaf behind me is basically electrically heated inside there, so it does affect range of the vehicle. Other manufacturers, various different ways. So it's really, really neat that way, and how they do, or how they control all that stuff. So, so saying that, it's going to go back to my share screen here. Get the right one. Okay, I know I'm talking a little fast because I know my time is coming up quickly, so I have just a few more things to talk about. I like diving down. I do have a lot of stuff on my table here. I talked like I have a stator in the back. I got battery modules. Just as a show and tell thing, I can show some of the early Leafs and that we've done rebuilds. These are the A123 cells, the packet style cells. I have some nickel metal hydrate cells, and actually I'm going to give you a little tip at the very end when I finish my presentation, and I got something really neat to share with you as well. And of course, we have some of the tools and equipment, and some of the things that we do here. And I'll tell you right now, like, even though we're an all EV service center, the very least work we do is actually on this stuff, on the electric drive units or batteries. That's the least we do. It's mostly, like I said, right from the beginning, it's maintenance. We do mostly maintenance here, from tire rotations, alignment, and also all those types of services. So it's not even, even though we can, or we have capability of it, stuff just doesn't break, doesn't wear out. It's just like it really can outlast the vehicle itself. One other thing I want to point up here, I get this to come up, is other inspections. These are still regular cars. So it's critical that even though, you know, electric cars don't have all the moving parts, they might not seem to be that, you know, that might not need that work. It's still good to have inspection done. I have a lower control arm there. One of our technicians just happened to notice a crack in the lower control arm on that vehicle. So it was a great catch for us. And through our inspection, we were just doing a tire rotation on this vehicle and we were inspecting the components and they noticed that. So that would have, you know, that could have saved a catastrophe. On the right there, we have an air pump. It's actually an air pump from a Mercedes-Benz. And it's gotten water in it. And because of where they locate it, you gotta remember a lot of these cars were built and originally designed down in southern states, and the humidity up here is a little different, so it affects things differently. So we encourage you know, our clients in that we come up with some of the repair maintenance procedures for some cases. And, you know, and then we check these things out and it prevents them from freezing up. The air pump on the side obviously caused a problem with the air suspension on a vehicle. So, you know, that was a critical point there. So it's, you know, once again, it's, you know, finding the right shop, you know, making sure that they're aware of your type of vehicle. And like, you know, the nuts and bolts of electric vehicles, it's almost funny is I saw, it was like an advertisement from like probably 30 years ago. Is for a training seminar. It was called the nuts and bolts of your vehicle. And I'm thinking, well, today it could be the nuts and bolts and windings of your vehicle. So like, you know, because we have that extra added area of the electric on it. So, but it's really exciting, and we can see that the transition is happening very, very quickly. So anyways, I'm excited. I see there's lots of people that have questions. So I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to hand it over to Laura.
Here you go, Laura. It's all yours.
Awesome. Lots of great questions. And there was a comment thanking you for having such a practical talk. Great seminar, very practical, creates an informed consumer and operator. So just thought I would pass that along before diving into the questions here. First question from Rob Campbell. Can your battery health check establish and or confirm if the requirements for a battery replacement under a manufacturer's warranty would be met?
So what we do is a great question, because what I like to do is if I do a battery health report, is obviously our battery health report would just instigate that to go to the consumer to go back to the OEM. The dealer would still have to do their own battery health because of the manufacturer would have their set standards and their set guidelines on that. So if a customer comes in and they say they're getting terrible range, the vehicle's like not charging properly, there might even be an error message, we'll do a battery health on that vehicle. If we determine it's below, like say it might be 65% of state of health, then that could instigate the customer to make an appointment at that dealer and have it checked by the dealer.
Awesome. Next question from Sandy, or I guess less of a question and more, she's interested in hearing your comments. I have a 2021 Hyundai Kona EV purchased in August 2020 from Baytown Hyundai and Barrie. It ran fine until May 2021, and since then has been in the dealer service department all but 2 weeks and is still there. Apparently the problem is with the 12-volt battery being drained somehow. Waiting for parts is also the issue, and this person would appreciate your comments.
Sure, and that's probably from the DC to DC converter. I don't think there's any issue with the vehicle in the sense of the high voltage system. It'd be no different than buying a brand new car with a 12-volt problem, 12-volt battery problem. It turns out to be an ACM, a controller, computer, an alternator, something in that area. So I would just say be patient with it. They're fantastic cars. I drove a Kona for gosh, about 3 months, I can drive any electric car essentially. And I drove a Kona, love the styling, love the performance, the range is awesome. So yeah, just hang in there. At least your car is at the dealer, it's getting looked at. One thing I do recommend is maybe keep following up with the service advisor, trying to stay on top of them a little bit. This keeps them in your keeps them in your crosshair. So like, this way they can get your car back to you as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. Next question from Stephen. It's a bit of a long one here. So one barrier to EV adoption is the time it takes to recharge an EV when on a road trip. Batteries take a fairly long time to recharge. Supercapacitors or ultracapacitors charge quickly but lose their charge over a relatively short time. Is there any research into a hybrid system? Charge the big capacitor quickly and allow it to quote unquote leak into the battery at a rate that the battery can accept. Is it cost prohibitive, space, or something else?
So with supercapacitors, I was with the back in 2013, Gatineau, Ontario, there was a conference there, and the Research Council of Canada was there with supercapacitors, talking about supercapacitors. Right now, supercapacitors, because of their design and their charge rates and how they work, they're better as a fast discharge and recharge. They usually use them a lot on excavators and stuff like that now. But to go back into the question about charge times and stuff like that, could there be a hybrid system eventually with large enough capacitors that would allow maybe more of an umph? Right now, there is capacitors in electric vehicles that help with some of that energy discharge, but it's is not in the same sense of trying to keep it, to get any kind of range out of it. But I say, like, all the time, when somebody asks me about charging, they go, well, how long does it take to charge? And it takes 5 seconds. I get out of my car, I plug my car in, I get out in the morning, I unplug it, go back in, and my car is fully charged. So it might be, to answer his question, it may be a cost thing as well too. So they're not cheap, and in the systems that have to be added, it just doesn't make sense when electric cars work right now. So.
Next question from Vincenzo. I believe you may have answered this. Do EV brakes need to be serviced more or less than ICE vehicles?
I would say that initially they need to be properly serviced and then inspected. Just make sure they're not seizing up, getting rusty, things like that. But on the flip side, if you do own an EV and you're driving, use your brakes. Use your brakes once in a while. Don't rely on the regen system for 100% of your braking. Do a couple hard stops once in a while, clean off the rotors. This ensures that the pads and the pistons and all that is moving within the braking system. So yeah, if you do that, you should have really no issues. And then the lubrication just helps protect everything and keeps things moving. So.
Awesome. There were a couple of similar questions, one from Jim and then one from, might have been Paula. The question is around, do you need to have maintenance done by the dealer? Or can you take it to any shop? So Jim's question specifically for Tesla, I believe there was a question, similar question about a Nissan vehicle.
Okay, so to answer your question, great question. I love this question. It comes down to the right to repair. There's a bunch of things happening right now in North America with access to information tools. But no, you do not need to take your vehicle to the dealer to have basic maintenance done on your vehicle, like tire rotation, alignments, brake caliper servicing, even cabin air filter changes. All that can be done by any competent shop that's equipped to do it. Where you do need to go to the dealer is for warranty items. Aftermarket independent shops cannot do warranty work from an OEM. So that work, like, if there's a ball joint gone in a vehicle, or, the air conditioning is not working anymore and it's still within warranty, then it definitely has to go back to the dealers, because you want to capture that warranty that you have on the vehicle, so it doesn't cost you anything. But all other services can be done outside the dealer. Just make sure that any service that you do, whether it's in an invoice or in your maintenance interval guide, is recorded by that shop. And this helps keep your warranty as well too. So, but no, you do not need to take your vehicle to have basic maintenance done to the dealer.
Awesome. I'm sure a lot of people wanted to hear that. So next question, also from Vincenzo, where is Aliv and are there similar service providers in the Toronto area?
Finally, a question I can help with, Cass.
Jeremie.
Yeah, so I saw a couple questions in there. So where are we located? I should have started with that. I tried to not make it too much about our organization and more about the subject at hand. But we're originally from Dartmouth, and now we've been growing quite a bit. We grew into PEI and now Newfoundland as of last week, and we're opening up a store now in New Brunswick in the next couple weeks, and another store in Newfoundland and Corner Brook the following week. So we're really Atlantic Canada centered right now. And the question at hand is there another shop in Ontario that can do this? There's no shop that we know of that really specializes in the maintenance and service of these electric vehicles. We know that there's others, other electric vehicle dealerships that are quite good out there in Ontario. But Dave, do you know of anyone that's specific into service?
Well, there's shops that are trying to get into the servicing side, but it comes down to a business like our model. What Jeremie's saying is that I don't think there is other shops right now totally dedicated to electric vehicles. Like, we have really made that shift. Last September, we sat in our boardroom and we said, we are all EV Canada. Why do we have gas-powered vehicles in our shop? And at that moment, we basically eliminated all gas vehicles and did exactly what our name was. We are all EV, and that's what we stand true to.
Next question from Kurt. What are your thoughts and recommendations re corrosion reduction with electric vehicles?
Sorry, say again? I didn't get the...
What are your thoughts and recommendations on corrosion reduction with electric vehicles?
Okay, so a lot of we get this question all the time, being in Atlantic Canada, for rust checking or rust proofing or any of those corrosion measures on a vehicle. A lot of the vehicles are aluminum, so you really have to fall back into the manufacturer, what they recommend. Most manufacturers will recommend no corrosion protection, and the reason comes back because the manufacturer can't, one, recommend a particular brand, and two, they don't know the brand that's being applied to the vehicle. So some corrosion inhibitors, I guess you could call them, are very aggressive. They can get into areas, they can swell seals, they attack rubber. Others are more friendly, but they can't just recommend one. Some manufacturers actually will do corrosion protection within their dealer because that's been kind of somewhat approved by the manufacturer. But if you do go to an area and in the car, you do want to do the protection, it's always easy. One, I always recommend just keep your car clean underneath. So yeah, in the winter time, there's car washes that you can drive through that basically clean the underneath of it, or find a shop that is doing that kind of work where they understand the high voltage cables. I had a great comment on Facebook about some of these corrosion protection that's a dark color. And if they get it on the orange colored cables, first responders would have a problem identifying those cables. So, so those are the kind of things that they have to be wary of. But at the same time, just, take a look around, talk to the companies that are applying it and see what their confidence is in doing it. But once again, double check with the OEM because it could affect your warranty on some components if they detect there's a product that could have possibly inhibited or got into a component which caused its failure. So.
Awesome, thanks, Dave. Next, we have a question which you spoke to regarding whether tires wear faster because EVs are heavier than ICE vehicles. So in your talk, you mentioned it wears more on the inside. Do you have any more comments to add there?
I can jump into that one as well. So, electric vehicles are heavier, and Dave did stress the fact that alignments are so crucial And I think it comes down to a couple things that not everyone thinks of right away, but it's the immediate torque that we have with electric vehicles. And it's that neck snapping. Whenever we accelerate and we get stuck in our seat, and that wonderful feeling, that's our tires suffering, right? That's our tires that are really loading. They're loaded and they're just, grabbing as much as they can to throw us back in our seat. A gasoline engine, you got to rev the engine up, you got to downshift, you got to progressively have more torque. It's rare that you have a vehicle on the road that has as much torque, half as much torque as these vehicles. There's not even a clutch on a manual vehicle to transition that power. So it's so immediate, your tires suffer a lot more. So the alignment's important, but also, when we talk about the inside wearing out, when an electric vehicle is under really hard acceleration, it squats down often. We'll see the suspension squat and the wheels will tilt out a little bit and will wear the inside of the tire a little bit more. So I think it comes down to how feather-footed you are or should be. And for those that have the options in their car to make them, drive on chill mode, that will actually add longevity to your tires dramatically. It's more about your right foot than anything else for your tire wear.
So I guess it varies quite a bit between drivers.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. Next, we have a question from Augustino. Regarding brakes, what is your opinion on using NRS brake pads on EVs because of the reduced usage?
So the NRS is a standard on the brake pads themselves. So basically, I always recommend what OEM recommends on the brake pads because they're the ones that design it. It's been engineered to work with it. If you deviate from an OEM specified brake pad, it might be more environmentally friendly. It might be less, reduction to the environment, but also it could have adverse effects on it. So it's always good to revert back to the OEM. The specifications on it, because you are messing with a safety item on the vehicle, the only item that can stop 3,000-4,000 pounds of glass and steel from going down a road. So it's important to make sure you have the right proper components on that vehicle, especially in the brakes.
I think, Laura, we have time for one more quick one. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but squeeze one quick one in there if we could.
All right, will do. We've got 18 open questions. Let's see how fast we can be. Next from Timothy. I have a Kona 2021 since April. I just received a notice that I have to have a 6,000 kilometer service. I called and asked what service, and they said oil and filter. How do I find a good service technician?
Yeah, that's just a generic thing. That's probably just from their database. They're just sending that out to everybody. I'd revert back to your maintenance interval on your Kona in the vehicle. So you're probably just ready for tire rotation at this point. So
I know who asked that question, but anyway, that's a great one. Well, that's terrific. Thanks, Laura. You did a great job as always, and I hate to end it. I can just tell that there are a lot of questions. I think, you know what, Dave, Jeremie, you're going to have to come back. I think there's no way around it. I can see you coming in the new year pretty early. We'll do a session called Ask Your Mechanic, free advice from your mechanic. Oh my God, who wouldn't want to jump in on that one? Especially with EVs, because as you pointed out, there are a lot of things to think about that are quite different. And, just little tips. We have a car that we have two EVs, and one of them, you never use the brakes unless it's an emergency, but good thought, step on those brakes once in a while just to keep them moving. I know sometimes they get squeaky if you don't. It's because it's starting to rust a little bit. So little tips like that are great to know. And I want you to come back, if for nothing else, but to explain that battery health chart that you put up, Dave. That looked, for geeks like me, that looked pretty intriguing. A lot of neat stuff on there, but we'll have to save that for another time. But thank you both very much for coming on. I think it's a popular topic, and we will ask you to come back. And we'll do a follow-up. I think rather than just doing a recording, let's do a whole other episode, if you will. I think it'd be great.
Yeah, totally. Well, thank you guys very much, and thank you to all the listeners. And if you need to get a hold, if you want to ask your questions still, just email me. I'm glad to answer them. There's no, it doesn't end here. It's all about education. So
Absolutely. And likewise, if anyone wants to send us a question or an email, we can get you in touch with Dave and Jeremie. Be glad to do that. And if you have any other comments or questions about the webinar, the Canada Talks webinar, we want to hear from you. So please do send us emails and let us know what you're thinking, what topics you'd like to hear in the future. Our next episode of Canada Talks will take place on October 5th, also at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. And next month's speaker will be Corey Cantor, who's a transport analyst for Bloomberg NEF. Bloomberg is a leading provider of strategic research on the pathways for the power and transportation sectors to adapt to this evolving energy transition. So I think we'll be able to hear some pretty interesting information and research there. And for the rest, thank you all for joining us. It was great to have so many new faces I saw in the registration. Thanks for coming on. And from all of us at Electric Vehicle Society, and until next month, please stay safe, stay healthy. So this concludes our webinar.
Thanks so much, Tim.